Welcome to a special episode of GRC Uncensored, where our hosts answer your questions. During this recorded conversation, we took questions from Reddit and LinkedIn about the current state of GRC. Now on to your producer.
Hello and welcome to our AMA. Okay, well, let's get this started. So here's the deal. We're going to do some little quick introductions here. I have our co-host of a podcast called GRC Uncensored, but they are actually here to represent more on their profession side versus whatever we usually do in the podcast to talk about the current state of GRC. So with that, we have Troy Fine, who is the co-founder of Fine Assurance, or Getting Just Fine Compliance. I don't know. What's your tagline? Do we have a tagline?
Well,
Just Fine?
yeah, you don't need to be good, just fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Our GRC meme king expert in SOC 2 and some adjacent compliance frameworks. And then we have Kendra Cooley, who can I call you the leader of your cybersecurity organization? Is that correct?
I am, yes.
Well, you put director in your title for Doppel. I just don't know if that means you're leading everything or if, there's someone.
Yes, I am the head of the security and IT program at Doppel.
Perfect. All right. And you answered precisely 3 questions on your Reddit AMA, so hopefully we can get you to 4 questions. I'm going to give you a little bit.
3?
That's good. I'm not going to be that mean. All right. So basically how this is going to run down is I'm going to read you off some of the questions that we have between Reddit and LinkedIn, God knows wherever else this is coming in from. But I'm going to start with our usual primer. And once I get these completed, I will take the transcript and put the responses back into the respective places. If you're on LinkedIn, you're already getting the information. If you are on Reddit, not so much. All right, Troy, let's start with our primer question. What did you ask AI this week? Hopefully something less boring than
What did I ask AI this week?
Yeah.
It is very boring. I didn't really ask AI too much this week. I don't think. I think I'm just trying to get AI to transcribe a video for me. Actually, here's what I'm trying to do with it anyway. So, did a physical security walkthrough, right? And I got the recording. It was a recorded physical security walkthrough because it's not a SaaS company, but it's an hour and 43 minute video. There's no transcript, and I'm trying to figure out where the controls are that we're testing. So I'm trying to get AI to transcribe the videos for me. Then I'm going to take the controls and say, only where in this transcription these controls are evident. And then I'm going to ask it, what other controls do you think we should add based on this video I'm recording? And I hope it does it in about 10 minutes, which would take me a very long time to look at an hour and 43 minute video and find everything. So if it can do it, that's a win. That's a big win. Very boring, but very big win for my time and my life.
You do know our podcast gets recorded and we transcribe it. You could just slip me like $5 and I'll do it for you.
But then I'd be giving you client data. I can't do
that. Yeah, that sounds like it might be a problem. All right.
Well, let's give it to ChatGPT.
It's not ChatGPT.
Okay.
Come on now. It's an enterprise version of my AI tool that is protected and my data is not stored there or trained on their model, supposedly.
Kendra, how about you?
Last thing I asked ChatGPT for is I had a bunch of chicken scratch notes about a vendor we're considering switching to. And I said, take all of these notes and consolidate into something that makes me sound very smart so I can drop it into a project update spreadsheet. And it did such a beautiful job. And I didn't have to do it. So ChatGPT for the win this week.
All right. Excellent.
You, Elliot? You always put us in the hot seat. And you
probably, how do I figure out Riverside and LinkedIn Live?
Specs do not really do a good job of helping. So unfortunately, mine's much dumber. I'm actively trying to buy a farm. So I'm trying to use...
You're actively buying a farm?
Yes, actively trying to buy a farm. So I'm trying to navigate the mess that is that process. So
it sounds like a very capital intensive thing to buy.
It is. It's going to hurt.
And anyway, waking up at 4 a.m. to
no, you automate it.
I was like, what's happening here?
I already have the chickens. It's my proof of concept. So now you just scale it. I'm not waking up 4 a.m. The doors are off.
Farming as a service? What is happening right now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, we are so not going to go down that rabbit
He's
hole.
gonna
You
have
have
one of those
PE money buying
government
farms for you? I
AI.
thought PE was only in accounting. No, they're buying farms. Are you
Well,
seriously a
I'm
PE
gonna
firms
use
buying
those
farms with you?
imaginary monopoly dollars that we got from Auditable. $5 somewhere
mean-
down the line.
But let me know what PE firm is buying farms with you, and we'll talk after this.
We are absolutely not doing that. That is all self-funded. Which I'm going to ask you our first question, which came in on Reddit. We're going to see how you answer this. Do you ever think you'd become anti-Drata, Troy?
I'm not anti-Drata. I don't know why people think that. I'm not anti-Drata.
No. I think it's more future tense.
Oh, it's a future tense.
Yeah. Do you ever
I feel
think
like in this case, Drata is like signifying GRC automation in general in this question.
Okay.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
I don't think that was future thinking. It says, did you
Yeah.
ever
I don't-
think you'd become
I
anti-Drata?
don't think it's future either. I think it's people thinking anti-Drata. I'm not anti-GRC automation. An anti firm that decides to compromise their professional integrity in order to win work from GRC tool. Okay, that is what I am anti.
there
GRC
is a
They're
follow-up
fine until they start involving themselves in practices that, are unethical with audit firms. So both parties in that case are definitely at fault. But I think audit firms, they have a choice. They don't have to involve themselves in these practices. So that's what I meant. I think it's just GRC tools are stuck in the mix because they're the ones pressuring and getting involved with it. But I think there's a lot of relationships with audit firms and GRC tools that are not bad. I think a lot of them are trying to do it the right way, but it's just like anything in life. It only takes a few bad ones to ruin everything. So I think that's what's happening, and that's what I'm anti. That's not a specific tool. It's not Drata. It's not anything like that. It's just relationships with audit firms and compromising professional integrity during their audits due to these commercial relations.
Kendra, would you like to expand on that?
I would completely agree with what my buddy Troy here has said, but I do lean a little bit more towards like anti these automation platforms simply because I have had experiences with these tools where I know for an absolute fact they're reporting green check marks when the data that's in there is entirely false. So for me, it comes down to like a lack of trust with the tools, but I also agree I don't like the way that they've sort of cheapened what some of these audits actually are trying to get to at the root.
Okay. Good. That makes sense to me. All right. There is
What about you, Elliot?
Me? I don't have to deal with any of this stuff anymore.
It's interesting. I'm not a user. I've never used the tools from my perspective on being audited. So I don't know from that perspective.
Like I've said the whole time, there's absolutely a place for these tools in the market. No issues with that. But I, again, agree with Troy in what he said about how I think there are a lot of firms out there who have started to just take everything that's in these tools as 100% word and not dug in to actually try to do the job that they're supposed to do, which is auditing to make sure that the checks that are showing green check marks are actually legitimate.
That makes sense. All right. So there's a good follow-on question to this, which is sort of the vein of like, if you have a low budget, you're a startup, you can't necessarily afford working with the big four. Is there a place for these lower quality audit firms and lower quality audits?
This goes back to, I swear, every episode of GRC Uncensored we have ever recorded goes back to this exact question. And
What was
it
the
is,
specific question?
Well, here, I'll just read it out for you. Glittering Tie asked, as a budget conscious startup seeking a SOC 2, what incentive do I have to not choose a low-cost auditor, especially if it is already bundled with a platform and a vCISO?
What incentive? You don't have any incentive. That's the problem. That's my answer. I don't have a better answer than that. There is no incentive. Otherwise, people wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. And again, so what it always comes down to with our conversations is what are you trying to get out of with your audit? Are you simply trying to get a report that you can hand to your customers that says, hey, yep, we checked all the right boxes and we're compliant? Or are you actually trying to use your compliance program and these audits to improve your program overall? They're two very different schools of thought. And if you're trying to do the first, yeah, get out of it as cheap as you can. Spend as little time as you possibly can. Go for that firm or that readiness platform that's telling you can be SOC 2 compliant in 4 minutes, and then pay for a $5,000 audit that's 100% rubber stamped. But if you want to actually improve your program, go for an auditor that is going to hold your feet to the fire and actually check the things that they say that they're supposed to be checking, so that at the end of it, you end up with something that you can actually work towards improvement versus just having a piece of paper that ultimately is of no use to you.
I guess, there's no commercial incentive, I guess.
And
Right,
there's
yeah.
also no
Right.
repercussions, right, for these low quality audit firms going against AICPA guidance.
Errol, what did you say?
There's no repercussions. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
that
I mean,
challenge
I'm
you.
not sure. I mean, I guess your one incentive is like, I mean, theoretically speaking, if you're using a firm that, well, you can look at my firm. Technically, I haven't gone through peer review yet, right? I mean, I don't have to go through peer review for 18 months after I issue my first report. But technically, my peer review is not due till January 31st, 2027, right? That means, theoretically speaking, I go through peer review and not pass, right? So you're taking a risk by using my firm that we're not going to pass peer review, right? I guess that wouldn't be good. I guess that's your one incentive. You have an unknown firm where you really don't even know who you're using, right? In this situation, they're bundling, right? So it's a vCISO, they get the audit firm. I would say if you don't even know who the audit firm is, and you've done no due diligence on who the audit firm is, and they haven't gone through peer review, you don't even know who the people are behind it, that might be an incentive maybe not to trust that situation. Like, you might want to at least know the people who are doing the audit and the leaders, and like at least be comfortable that when they do have to go through peer review, you're pretty confident that what they're doing is a good job and they'll probably pass, right? I mean, if you're just going in blind, I would probably not recommend that. Wouldn't recommend going in blind to anything in life.
Well, I think that becomes a challenge, though, oftentimes with some of those startups that might have lesser budgets. In those situations, I think a lot of the times they don't necessarily have security staff on their team that has been through an audit in the past and therefore knows how to appropriately judge an audit firm. So they're just going to go with, hey, like this automation platform just offered me a vCISO, an auditor, the readiness, all of this. Like, why would I not take that?
I agree. No, I mean, I agree. But I guess, if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is. I mean, I don't know. Like,
But how do you know that? How do you know if it's too good to be true? If you've never had a quote from an audit firm that is, $30,000 for a SOC 2 Type 2, and all you ever have in your experience is an automation platform for SOC 2 plus an auditor plus a vCISO, and they're offering you this lovely bundled price of $15,000, you don't have anything to compare it to. So you don't start asking those critical questions. That's just like, oh, well, this is the price. This is what they're offering this for. This is a great deal. But if you're not shopping around to figure out how much Troy is charging or some of these other firms, then, you don't really have the ability to like make that jump to, ooh, is this too good to be true?
yeah, you should at least know who the audit firm is, though, right? Like, I would at least hope people would ask, like, well, who is the audit firm that'll be issuing the report? Like, if people aren't even asking that, like, that part I don't understand. Like, if I was having anything done for my business or anything, I'd want to know the company behind it, right? I wouldn't just like I'm trying to think of a similar situation, but I can't because I've never done that, right?
Well, here's a follow-up to make this a little bit more interesting from our new friend Glittering Tie. They're saying regarding companies partnering up and creating this conflict of interest, do you see a way that companies team up while actually staying objective? They expand on that by saying partnership is the main way most companies get new business in this ecosystem of platform auditor and vCISO, especially for smaller companies just starting out.
So what was the question?
Is there a way to do this, essentially going against AICPA's guidance while still essentially being objective? It goes back to our last episode of like, is there a world where auditors actually are ethical or not? Or can be?
I mean, I think it's such a subjective thing, right? I mean, I think can you have commercial relationships like this where an audit is done objectively? I'm sure, 100%, I'm sure you can. And I'm sure people are doing that. But like, nobody has data on this. I think that's part of the problem. Like anything we say or anything I say, like if I was in that situation, objectively, full transparency, like I probably wouldn't be able to do an objective audit because I'd be worried about losing a customer or losing a referral source, right? Like it's just natural, right? When that's your source of revenue and you have a family to support, like what am I going to, like what's going to happen in that situation, right? So if you put yourselves in those situations, it's going to be hard to do an objective audit for certain people. If it's a bigger firm, right, where like the people working on the audit are not really the ones that are dealing with the commercial relationship, between the GRC platform and the audit firm, it's probably more possible to do an objective audit in that scenario, right? There's just more layers. The people doing the audit are not dependent on, they're not being measured or their salary's not dependent on whether these customers are always happy. Their firms want them to do a quality audit first. Hey, you're doing a quality audit. This customer is not happy for the wrong reason. We'll handle that with the GRC platform auditors. You don't have to worry about that. Just keep doing your job, right? So in that type of situation, there's like a separation of duties, right? And I think in that case, you probably could do a more objective audit. Does that mean it's going to be better than just sourcing your own clients and finding your own clients and doing it? Probably not, but I think every situation is different. So I think it's hard to judge, which is why I think we need data on all this. And that's what I want to do. I want to get data on all these situations and then tell people, like, we looked at all these audits. These ones were low quality. And guess what? 50% of the low quality audits we looked at, they were sourced from a GRC tool. Oh, okay. Why is that? Well, I'm sure we could all come up with our own answers after we have the data. The problem is we don't have data. So all this is anecdotal and all of it's subjective, but long answer to a complex question. But basically, yes, maybe, no, I don't know. We just need data. And if somebody can help me get the data, let's go do it.
Ask ChatGPT.
All right. So
even in my situation, like it's subjective, right? Like, I mean, it was a small 2-person firm. It's the person behind the firm. I mean, hey, if I lose a big client, that wouldn't be good for me. So is that good for me for a big client if they're a big source of our revenue? Is my audit going to be different for that client potentially than the one that's not paying me as much?
I would hope not, because you're an ethical human, Troy.
Sure. I mean, you got to like really have a strong personality to do it, right? I mean,
You must think of all the times you made me angry during our most recent audit. And look, we're still here. We're still hanging out.
We are, but it doesn't mean you'll be my client next year. We'll find that out next year.
Oh, you put me through the ringer. I'm coming back for more.
Well, it takes a unique personality for that. So.
But again, on those options of choices, do I want a piece of paper that I can hand to my customers and say, yes, we did this? Or do I want to actually use this audit to help improve my security program? I'm over here. I deeply care about the program that I'm creating, the data that we're trying to secure internally. And so for me, it's incredibly important that I have an ethical auditor and someone who is actually going to pull up that corner of the rug and say, look at all these crumbs over here, Kendra. Like, what are we going to do about this? But that's not everybody.
That's not most people.
This is true.
All right, let me jump in there. Well, I'm mostly going to repeat essentially a question that you sort of respond to, but I like the way that Connor positioned this, is if you cannot actually fail an audit, mostly to like the sense of probably SOC 2, why not use those lower quality audit firms? Like again, like if AICPA only has so many mechanisms that they'll put out a memo, but like, again, there's no restrictions. But if there's no way to fail it, why not use a lower quality audit firm? And then he actually also followed up as we've been asked for a SOC 2 twice. The only thing that they've checked was our insurance or a small business. So maybe medium to enterprise orgs get more attention and focus.
So they've only asked for the insurance, you said?
Yeah, it looks like maybe from an external party, they've been asked for a SOC 2 twice. And the only thing that they've actually checked against it after handing off the SOC 2 was their insurance.
I'd be curious to know what industry they're in, for one.
Well, they appear to be in the cybersecurity space.
Okay. Smaller organization, larger? Smaller. Okay. So my mind also would go to like the types of customers that you're dealing with, because if you're selling to a larger enterprise or an organization that has a more robust internal security program, you're going to get asked for your SOC 2 more than just twice. And yes, cyber insurance is a part of things that are often checked, but depending on who you're selling to, they're going to want that piece of assurance. I don't understand the part about if you can't fail a SOC 2. Like, you can definitely get
get
like
qualified
adverse
opinion.
opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be sending out an adverse opinion or even a qualified opinion report personally.
I mean, it's not like ISO where you like fail and don't get anything. But I think it just comes like it's like, what are the incentives? I just don't think there are commercial incentive or market incentives. There's no market forces that are forcing people to choose different firms. And why? How could there be? I mean, Kendra, you're reviewing SOC 2 reports. Like, business comes to you, shiny AI tool, they want to use it. You see a SOC 2 report from, a firm that you don't trust or whatever, for whatever reason.
Goes in the trash immediately.
But what do you tell the business? Like, hey, you can't use this tool because their SOC 2 audit was done by a firm I don't trust, or, hey, this is a risk and we need to monitor this risk because we're using this firm. We need to put in the contract that they need to use a different firm. But what different firm? Like, I guess the reason there's no incentives is because TPRM teams don't have a way to incentivize the business to care about which audit firms are being used. So what do you do in that situation? I guess.
Yeah, it's a great question. Definitely always highlight, especially if it's coming from specific audit firms that I've had poor experiences with. I'll always highlight that as a risk. And usually I just don't even look at the report for what information is in there. I have my other mechanisms of trying to evaluate the organization that go past just a SOC 2 report. Similar with pen test reports. Usually first thing we ask for from any vendor that we're evaluating is their SOC 2 or ISO, and then also most recent penetration test. There's a lot of penetration testing firms out there that are just basic scans, right? Like, they're not actually doing penetration tests, so I also don't really look at those. But it's also going to depend on the vendor, what types of data they're going to have access to, who's using it, what are use cases, those sorts of things. So not every vendor evaluation is going to be the same. Now, if I find we have a vendor that has access to a ton of data, They didn't do a thorough SOC 2 just simply based off of the auditor. And then they also did a scan for a penetration test. That to me is going to go back to whomever has requested this vendor as like, hey, this is a huge risk. Now, from my perspective and the team that I'm building right now and all the teams that I've built before and from a security perspective is we're not the no team. Like there's almost been no time that I can think of really in my career where I've said, hard stop, no, we're absolutely not using this vendor. Because at the end of the day, it's the business's decision as to whether or not they want to accept the risk. My job and my team's job is to say, here is like what we've outlined as the potential risk based off of our evaluation. Now, if you choose to move forward with that, we're going to have to put some compensating controls in place to make sure that it doesn't put us at risk, but we're never just going to be full stop, absolutely no, you cannot use this. So it's a balance depending on the vendor.
Let's assume it's a critical vendor that's, you said it's critical risk. Let's just, for whatever reason, assume it's critical risk. And they're using that firm that you don't trust. No, I don't trust the audit report. So like, what do you tell the business like in that situation? What is a mitigating control for that risk? Because it goes back to like, okay, this company now, Doppel has decided, new potential vendor, you're critical to us. We don't like your SOC 2 report. You're using auditor we don't trust. Okay, business, are you going to accept this risk?
Yeah.
How do you mitigate that risk? Like you force the vendor to use a new audit firm next year, or like what? What is the risk, I guess, that's being accepted in that situation?
I mean, the risk is that we don't have a firm confirmation that they're doing what they say they're doing from a security perspective. So there are things that we can write into the contracts, like the ability to do our own audits and request vulnerability scans or, things of that nature for our own team to evaluate. Obviously, we can send out a huge questionnaire as well and then request artifacts that come back with that. And if they have pushback there, that also elevates the level of risk because they're also then not willing to be transparent with us and how they're handling our data. And so depending on what services they're connecting to, what access they're looking for, like we have to make decisions internally as a security organization to say, all right, how do we lessen, they say they need read-write access to the system. Okay, no, we'll give you read. We're not going to give you write. Like, where can we make small adjustments to not necessarily take away from the value of the tool, but also to safeguard ourselves? And at the end of the day, if we say to the business, hey, we'll allow you to use this tool, but here are the things that we're going to have to change in terms of how our users are interacting with it or the benefits that you're getting from it. And you then realize, oh, we're only getting 50% of the features. Do you really want to move forward with that? Or do you want to try and go and evaluate some other vendors in the space? Because it's very rare that you come across a solution where they're the only one, right, that's performing that particular service. So let's take a step back. Let's go and evaluate some other vendors and then see where the risk lies between the two. But I've absolutely never written into any sort of contract like you can't use this audit firm any longer. I have, however, sent back information to the vendor saying, based on our evaluation, we did not even look at your SOC 2 report because this is a particular audit firm that we've had bad experiences with in the past, and we just it doesn't hold any weight. And I've had people come back and want to ask follow-up questions to that. Maybe it skewed the audit firm that they use next time. Maybe it didn't because they still got our business, right?
No, hold up. Yeah. All right, we got a few more questions to go to.
No, I like that. It was good though. Good answer. We'll come back.
Okay.
All right. So you already sort of cracked into this, Kendra, but the question is, what is the difference in SOC 2 pen testing when automated AI probably scanned versus manual pen testing? And why does PCI DSS require manual pen testing via their standards, but for SOC 2, it does not necessarily matter? Do people sometimes avoid the pen test in SOC 2 altogether?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Troy, but penetration testing is not a requirement for SOC 2.
Well, nothing is required, so
This
yes.
is true. So because the SOC 2 standard is so flimsy, if I can say, yeah, use
Flexible.
flexible.
Isn't that
I
good?
like flimsy. It feels worse because it's so, ugh. You can really do what you want from a penetration testing perspective. Do I think that's right? No. Would I ever personally use an AI automated penetration test for the tools that we're creating in my company? Absolutely not. Now, is it a great thing to have kind of running in the background so that you're getting that continuous information, similar to like a vulnerability scanning tool? Absolutely. But from my perspective, the manual penetration test is just so important because you want to be able to have that human mindset of how someone's going to potentially come at your application or whatever it is that your company has built. And what was the other part of that? Something about PCI?
Yeah, I think it was under the guise of like you have to have a manual pen test if you're going through PCI.
I don't know that to be true. Troy, do you know that to be true?
I think that's true. I think.
Did we
Why
answer?
is that? Because they're just more strict.
Yeah.
I think
They're
I think it's
flimsy.
because the risk is actually probably greater, right? I mean, people are scraping credit card data all the time from apps, so I think they just want manual web app penetration testing, especially just because that's a big risk for credit card data being stolen, right? So
Yeah. But
um,
I think the other part of that question was, do people often avoid like penetration testing for SOC 2 altogether? 100%. I've read so many SOC 2 reports that have no mention of a penetration test.
or who knows, maybe they're doing a penetration test, or maybe they're saying they're doing a penetration test and it's actually not.
That's
Like,
for that
well,
evidence.
no, I'm saying the SOC 2 report says they do a pen test, but it wasn't a pen test. Like, how would you even know that unless you asked for the penetration test that they did?
That's a good
If
question.
you're trusting
Where
an
did it
audit firm,
mention I
see,
also
this is,
for it?
you know, what's on the piece of paper is correct. Or another.
How do you know it's not ChatGPT generated?
You know, they just sign up for a company and get it slacked, a report slacked to them 2 days later.
It's not just human deepfakes we have to worry about, guys. It's actual artifacts, right?
That could be a deep fake right now.
You are a little glitchy.
I'm a little glitchy. But my tone and the stuff I'm saying is so Troy fine that I can't be a deep fake.
It's on brand. It's on brand. All right, next question, Elliot.
All right, so a last one, which actually probably will tie back into that. And I'm gonna not call up the names in an era where cost cutting is extremely important. How does it feel to see firms like something and something on a list that we've definitely seen before now offshore resources in a race to the bottom for pricing? Should clients be concerned at all? And these are firms, not GRC
Should
technology.
clients of these firms be concerned?
Yeah, about the offshoring side. Especially, well, I'll split this in 2 ways. It's not in that question, but like at some of these firms, you are not aware that there is offshoring involved. And then the others is maybe they're forthcoming about it. But so let's start with if
Oh,
you
you
are,
mean like the firm is offshoring but not telling them that they're using offshore resources to do their audits?
let's split it both ways.
You should
So,
be
like,
concerned. You should
well,
leave your audit
well,
firm now
no.
if they're not being transparent about that and leave. 100%.
Okay, that's simple. So
That's
let's
one answer.
aware. Well, let's say you are aware that they're offshoring, because obviously we're seeing a lot of upstart firms being global and they're not peer reviewed yet, and it's hard to like realize what their current status and geographic location is. But is there any impact there? I think the main point of contention here is this is contributing to that race to the bottom on pricing.
Yeah. Well, I think the race to the bottom has caused the offshoring that firms can be profitable. So I think it's a reverse. I mean, that's how they lower their costs and it's how they stay profitable, right? At the end of the day, profit usually wins over quality, especially when you're backed by a PE firm. Kind of has to. Otherwise, nobody's making money. But is it a cause of concern? Of course, it depends. I mean, if you're going through an audit and they're using offshore resources, and at the end of the audit, you tell yourself, actually audit me? Like, did I just go through an audit? Was that light? Like, do I feel like I was just audited, or was that really easy? You probably shouldn't think the audit was like super easy if you're going through a quality audit. Audits shouldn't necessarily be easy. They should be fair, and they should meet expectations should be communicated. I'm sure there's plenty of offshore resources that are better than US resources. Like, of course we will find that, but it's going to depend. And I can't tell you one way or the other unless I'm going through the audit with you. And I'm like, oh, they only looked at this. Did they look at this? Did they look at that? Did they look at that? I mean, so like, you have to kind of use that judgment yourself. And if they're using offshore resources and you feel like the audit wasn't an actual audit and that bothers you, you can find a new firm. If what Kendra said before, if they're using offshore resources and you thought it was an easy audit and it doesn't bother you and you don't care and your business is happy and you're making more money and you're winning the business, you should stay with that audit firm if that's what's incentivizing you. So I think it just comes back to like, what do you care about? And if the business is, what's the risk? I guess there's a risk that the audit firm gets a really bad grade from some regulatory body and your audit becomes invalidated. That's a risk. I don't know how plausible that risk is, but I guess that's one risk. But yeah, I think it just comes down to like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like a really rigorous audit, but it has to be like, there has to be a bar, right? That I think everybody should agree to. And if you think it's below that bar and they're using offshore resources, then maybe you should go find a different audit firm. But the offshore resources might not be the cause of that. I mean, nobody really knows that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we just don't have data on any of this because nobody's objectively looking at audits and saying, you did low quality, you did low quality, you did low quality, you did good quality, you did quality. Oh, guess what? These 3 low quality audits, they were sourced by a GRC platform and their CPAs are offshore. These 2 good ones, all US resources, sourced themselves, not PE backed. You were really good quality. Okay, there's the metadata. Public, you guys decide why that's happening, right? Like, that's what we need. And we just don't have that data to support.
All right.
Fine for
Kendra.
president.
Tight
Troy
response.
for president.
Tight response.
We
Okay.
not-
And then I've got one interesting question, and I'll have
Ending
you answer
question?
that.
Okay, cool. So agree again with what Troy has said here. Absolutely should be concerned. And I actually just pulled the AMA up because I was like, all right, what audit firms did you leave out of this? And I can tell you one of them, I will not name which one, but when I was having a conversation with one of them, I was like, what can I expect going through an audit with you? They told me they were a 100% zero touch audit firm. And I said, you are 100% zero touch anything of mine then. That is not an audit. And so, yeah, the only way that they can get away with doing that is by partnering with those readiness platforms, the automation platforms, and then using the information that's in those as 100% what is happening in your company. Stay away from them. Stay away
You
from
know what I
them.
think is funny too? Then you can ask a spicy question. I always thought the zero touch thing was really funny because I'm like, what auditor is touching their clients? Like, I've never touched my clients. I think that's inappropriate. So like, I'm zero touch too, everyone. Like, I don't touch them. I never would. I never thought about it. So
Oh
anyways,
my
there we go.
gosh. Well, now for the spicy question, Elliot.
And we're all
Let's-
zero touch,
let's get
hopefully. Like,
All right, we're going to start with you, Kendra, on this because this is going to probably be a potential rant from TJ. Our friend, the GRC recruiter, asked, is there ever a point in the future where AI agents replace external auditors and are capable of issuing audit opinions autonomously without a human in the loop? This is more of maybe a feeling question for you, Kendra, but feel free to attack that in whichever way you want.
I think that we're running very fast in that direction personally because of the amount of trust that we're putting into some of these platforms and the fact that we don't have the data to evaluate whether or not what is being produced by them is quality or not. I also think, generally speaking, as a species, we are becoming lazier by the minute. And so the less work that we have to do the better. So yeah, I 100% see us getting to the point, especially as, sorry, TJ, especially as things like SOC 2 continue to kind of lose.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Lose the weight that they kind of, I think, once had. I do think
I'm gonna
that
fix
people are
that.
going to continue to move in a direction of wanting to spend less and less time on this, pay less and less. And the way that you do that is you put computers behind it and little evil geniuses that are, sitting inside of your machine checking everything.
Wouldn't a human still need to review the results, though? No.
We trust computers implicitly.
And that's how the world ends. And that's how the world ends. Just like that, folks. That's how it ends, guys. We implicitly trust.
And Troy just hangs up.
And I'm just sitting on Mars laughing at everybody when the world ends because I didn't trust the robots. I just trusted Musk and we went to Mars. Yeah. No, my answer is no. That's my answer to that question.
So no,
I did this though in my beginning. I did describe how I was using AI to help me. But
Yeah,
what I didn't say
why
is at
no?
the end, I'm going to check where it tells me, hey, at this point in the video, here's where it said this. Guess what I'm going to go do? I'm going to go to that point in the video and make sure what it showed. And
Well, then you might as well have done the work yourself, Troy.
this hour and 43 minutes, how long these you know how long that would take me to go through that?
But what if you missed something? See?
But no, I have the controls. So
Okay.
like, I'm just saying like, tell me where this is. So I'll know if it didn't get it correct because I know where I'm looking for. Still know where to find it.
True.
You see what I'm
Well,
saying?
no is not a very spicy answer. I need to know why
What was,
no.
okay, what was
Why
the
no?
question then, Elliot? Percent.
all right. Essentially, do you feel like there is ever a possibility where AI replaces you, Troy?
I think it will replace the people doing the testing, but someone needs to review the testing results, and that'll have to be a human. I mean, that's what makes sense to me. It could be everything. I mean, even if it's just not even SOC 2, it can be whatever you want doing the testing or auditing or monitoring. I still think a human, if someone's going to say like, we want an independent third-party attestation of some sort, third-party certification, whatever you want to call it. If somebody's going to issue a piece of paper, I still think there needs to be a human behind that piece of paper. Agents did what they were supposed to be doing. Like, somebody still has to, there has to be human oversight if we're going to have humans doing an independent audit. What we're really asking is, do we still want humans to do an independent audit anymore, security controls? And that is a completely different question in my opinion. And that answer is yes. Yeah, there's going to be a big shift in everything. That answer is yes. I don't think that answer. I think when people are asking, do we want AI to do the auditing and a human reviewing what AI is doing and still having a human? That's what I think.
I hope you're right, Troy, because I do think it's important that we have that human in the loop as we move towards more and more AI. But again, I think it's going to come down to time, money, resources, and laziness.
And PE, yeah. And PE and VC deciding what happens. But I mean, if that happens in the auditing world, I mean, that's just one of many then. Like that's going to be happening everywhere, right? So any professional services would be in trouble, in my opinion. What? I mean, Musk are going to Mars together then.
Have a safe trip.
All right, y'all. That was most of the questions. So that was our experiment, for sure. Mostly worked. We'll find out.
Well, the questions were actually good on Reddit, actually. Maybe we don't do the LinkedIn Live next thing and could just do what Kendra did this week and just do it. I do like talking about it and back and forth. I think it actually makes it better.
I'm just trying to take the pain out of it from folks like Kendra who really love the interface on Reddit and how that functions. Plus, the other thing is when we are higher profile people, they might not want to type things themselves.
Yeah.
Must say-
Again, I'm extremely lazy, and to type out responses, I was just like,
Yeah, I don't like typing responses either. I'd rather verbally communicate my nonsense to the world.
couldn't tell that by your LinkedIn posts.
They use AI for that for you. And they'll paraphrase you too. So God knows how that's going to work out.
There are a lot of people that support what I'm doing on LinkedIn, and they're just afraid to admit it.
They're just there.
I'm gonna fix this SOC. Through BS, losing weight, losing credibility. Nobody wants to rain more. Does not rain.
I hope you do, Troy. And honestly, like, call to everybody. Send Troy your data. We need to figure out the root.
That's what I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna
this
tell
problem.
every firm, like, you need to start sending me your reports, and I'll tell you if they're quality.
There you go. Then we're going to see this ranking list of audit firms and who's going to bubble to the top. Fine
Fine assurance. How do you see how it works?
But really, if you need a quality audit, I will say go to Fine Assurance, because you made me very upset.
Like, I have a client
It was
that
a-
says
it
they
was
were upset
such a good
and they're
audit.
still a
Such a good
client. How many audit firms can say
Can you say what?
that their client was upset and they're still a client? Supposedly. How many firms can say that?
I don't know. But to be fair, I was actually not upset. It was a very good audit. It just, you threw me for a loop a few times.
Audits aren't supposed to be easy. They're supposed to be.
Well, mission accomplished. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to GRC Uncensored, the podcast, where Troy and Kendra know their shit, and our producer just talks shit. To learn more about GRC, go to grcuncensored.com, subscribe to our newsletter, or join our community on Reddit. Viewpoints expressed during the show do not reflect the brands, employers, or companies of our hosts, guests, or sponsors.